Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we are getting into this job market and the layoffs that we've been seeing. Now, it's no surprise that a lot of companies have been deciding to lay off because of all the tariffs and just the economy right now. So we're gonna get into a few videos of people explaining what's going on and what companies are expected to lay off if they haven't already.
Google is firing 30% of their workforce. Dropbox fired 20% last year. IBM cut 9,000 jobs. JP Morgan and Chase is expecting to cut 10%. Microsoft cut 15,000 jobs. And Business Insider is cutting 21%, all to adopt AI into their companies. The Ford CEO, Jim Farley, says AI is going to cut white-collar jobs in half. Anthropic's CEO says unemployment could spike to 20%. We are living in a time in the US where the president wants everyone to work to earn things like healthcare, education, and food, while we are actively on the precipice of most people not having to work. Amazon just deployed their 1 millionth robot in a fulfillment center. Automation can be good, so long as we also include universal healthcare and universal basic income. Because otherwise, where is the money going? How do people buy things if robots do the jobs? As much as a billionaire's greed is insatiable, they quite literally cannot have it all. Because like Monopoly and the entire point of the game, when you own everything, you own nothing. The game is over. Nothing has value anymore.
So many jobs are laying off thousands upon thousands of people, and these are big companies. I mean, of course, they have to be able to lay off that many people, but it's like I said at the top of the video, it's not a surprise because so many different industries are just feeling the impacts of inflation and just the tariffs and just what the economy is doing right now. A lot of these companies, if not probably all of them, if we can really be for real, are putting profit over their employees. I'm thankful for my job. Let me just put that out there. But you're never going to be like a company's top priority if you work for a major corporation. It's just impossible. If you're a major corporation and you employ like over 100,000 people, not even really that much, but it's just hard to like care about each individual employee. And like he said, it's just gonna get to the point where these corporations just want it all. It's just kind of really eye-opening to see that 21% of the workforce, I mean, that's a quarter almost of your company. If AI takes over everything, AI is very useful in a lot of scenarios, but sometimes you can't replace humans in certain industries. I feel like a lot of these companies who are trying to do this in such a rush, they're going to find out the hard way that you can't replace humans. And yeah, like Trump wants everybody to work. You shouldn't be handed anything. But at the same time, y'all want us to stimulate the economy and buy stuff. Sir, how are people going to buy things if they don't have jobs? And how are they going to get health care if they can't work and don't have money? Can he please make it make sense? I'm scared for myself. Let me make that clear right now, because my industry, I'm not super secure at all. And in fact, I kind of have my own questions about what may be going on at my own workplace, but we'll save that conversation for later. This man being in office is going to create so much unemployment to where it's going to be hard to ignore. And he just wants to boast and brag about unemployment, but decided to fire the head of the department. Unfortunately, a lot of people are going to have to feel the impacts of losing their job. And this job market is already crazy, and it's taking people years to find jobs, even to get interviews. So I just feel that it's just going to make it harder and harder with more people looking for jobs after all of these layoffs, which will probably happen before the end of the year. And if I haven't made it clear, I'm nervous about my job too. We all should be, unless maybe you're in healthcare. If you work in healthcare, let me know down below if things are looking a little iffy in you guys' industry. But I feel like unless you're in healthcare, everybody needs to be worried about their jobs, unless you work for yourself or you have an inheritance, be nervous, because I know I am. All this news is just going to depress us each and every day. We pretty much just have to take it one day at a time. We can't freak out about it, because if it happens, I don't want to make light of it. It's definitely serious. This is how we support ourselves, but we can't dwell on it too much or we'll go crazy.
We are not only headed for a recession, but a possible depression. Okay, so what's the next domino to fall when markets crash? Companies are going to start announcing mass layoffs. If you have a job, okay, and you don't have at least $1 million in assets to ride out this wave, please go to your boss and say, is my job secure? And if the company starts to pursue layoffs, what would I need to do to secure my job? Take on other duties, work more hours, do whatever you can, because getting another job to replace the one you lose is going to be extremely difficult in this economic environment. And it doesn't look like it's gonna get better anytime soon. It's getting worse by the hour. Please protect yourself and your family and your job before it's too late.
I totally agree. And this is kind of a warning that everybody needs to heed. Now, like I said, just 2 minutes ago, literally, I honestly don't feel like anybody's job is secure. Now, of course, I could be wrong. I don't know how each industry is doing. Like nowadays, I just don't see anything doing all that great right now. Now, the profits may be good, but like I said, it might not be profiting like it used to. And they might want to cut a lot of us to be able to get back to that level before everything kind of hit the fan. If you don't have $1 million in the bank or in investments or whatever the case may be, just have a backup plan. And I do kind of feel like what he mentioned about asking your boss, is my job secure? What can I do to ensure that I don't get laid off? They could tell you something, sure, but at the end of the day, if they want to cut a whole department, it does not matter if you were the top performer, if you've worked so many hours of overtime, if you did 30 hours of overtime, that sometimes will not matter, because sometimes what they'll do is want to cut the people that make the most money too. So it's kind of like that weird line to where if you're new, then you're usually the first one to go because they want to keep tenured people. But sometimes some companies do the opposite of that and want to keep the newer hires because they know they got to pay the tenured people more. So it really could go either way. But I mean, it's good to ask, because if you have the type of company that doesn't do mass layoffs and they might only do a handful of people, I could see that maybe being helpful, but you're really at the mercy of what the powers that be decide. You could just be the top employee at your company or in your department, I should say, but sometimes that will not matter. So I would say, this is not great advice, but I would say do enough to keep your job. That's always just been my philosophy. And I don't mean that to be in a half-assed sort of way, but be on time, meet your metrics, that type of stuff. Don't just slack off in your work, because that'll be the number one cause of you actually losing your job. He gave some sound advice there. It just depends on your industry. It may not work, but I think what he pointed out was pretty good.
Layoffs have skyrocketed by 140% in the US this year. Companies have already cut over 800,000 jobs this year alone, and a lot of those jobs were cut in the second quarter. Microsoft, Intel, UPS, and more have all announced layoffs. The layoffs have been picking up steam as the year has progressed, with companies like Ford and Amazon warning that layoffs will be coming due to AI. And to make matters worse, not only have job creation numbers been abysmal, remember there were only 14,000 jobs created in the entire economy in June, but a lot of Americans have been long-term unemployed. 2 million Americans have been unemployed for 7 months or more, and they're still actively looking for a job. Now, mind you, a large part of that 2 million Americans has been looking for a lot longer than 7 months. Some have been looking for years. And there are a lot of people that are not counted in that 2 million number who've just given up looking. Bottom line, the job market is terrible. It's not booming at all.
Crazy numbers he just he just shared there, 800,000 jobs lost. Layoffs went up 140%. Have we ever seen those numbers before? I mean, I don't know. I'm sure there were many times where we were close, but I mean, this is unheard of at this point. And of course, like the other videos have been saying, AI is going to be the cause of a lot of us losing our jobs, and it's just so unfair. And automation is great, and implementing new technology is always a good thing because that shows signs of growth within a company. But like I said earlier, it's a lot of these companies are wanting to rush and put these systems into place to replace people, and I feel like they're doing that prematurely. A lot of people are going to be put off by AI if it's something that has to do with like customer facing roles, anything like that. If you're on TikTok or, see anything on social media, for example, the thing that comes up to the top of my head is McDonald's implemented AI through their drive-thrus, and there's viral videos of it completely glitching to the fact where people are just driving away. So, I mean, again, it could be a good thing, but in that case, it was just a horrible decision, because what are you going to do if the person changes their mind and wants to take something off? Then you're going to have that thing going crazy. Everybody wants to be the first to implement this AI, but it's not going to always be the case in whatever industry you're wanting to put it in, because when it comes to customers, I can guarantee you a lot of people are not going to want to have to deal with that in every aspect of their lives. But I don't know, we shall see if things are going to get worse or improve in the third quarter, because I'm not surprised with it being in the second quarter, because that's when things are really getting set into place during Trump's administration and these tariffs have been implemented. These companies are feeling it, and they're going to want to cut their workforce. That's the only way they're going to be able to see everything come back to normal, possibly, and of course raise prices too. So that's a whole nother story.
Interestingly, the number of layoffs have actually decreased, but what's happening right now is quiet layoffs. Quiet layoffs entail things like RTO, particularly when you're actually asking people to relocate. So for example, Starbucks has asked all of its management to work out of either its Seattle or Toronto offices. I do actually appreciate that they're not putting this expectation on individual contributors, because often you see the more junior employees having to pay the price, whereas here it's actually targeting some of the more senior people. But you all might remember that Starbucks actually made waves when they hired a CEO who lived in Southern California and were paying for a private jet to fly him back and forth. And it's unclear if he's required to relocate, but those who aren't able to are going to be offered a one-time cash payment. Another example of quiet layoffs is companies like Amazon or Dell, where they said things like, you can choose to work remote, but if you do, you're not going to be eligible for promotion. So in a quiet layoff, companies don't fire you and they don't do layoffs, but they make working there a little bit more inconvenient or even downright impossible for some employees, so that employee has to make the choice of leaving. And often, y'all, this stuff starts small and it snowballs. So the first expectation might be 3 days in office, then it goes to 4, and then it goes to 5 days, and then it goes to you have to be in these locations. Maybe at first it's restrictions where remote workers can't work on the most interesting projects, and then it escalates to no chances of promotions and no raises. So eventually it just becomes too difficult for someone to want to work there. Workplaces might also change your work responsibilities or change your title downwards or adjust your compensation in some way. So if your employer starts doing any of these things, that is a signal to you that they're probably not that invested in having you there long term. So you need to take control of your career and begin that job search. I personally wouldn't leave a job over any of these things until I had another offer in hand, but this would be a signal to me that it is time to start my search.
This is something I don't see spoken about a lot, but she is right. There's a lot of companies that are trying to, especially the ones that are having employees return to the office. That's a tactic that they're using to hopefully get some people to quit, so that it kind of makes the bottom line a little bit easier. Because again, I'm going to bring up my company. I feel like my company did this because we went from work, like most people, let me not say most, but a fair amount of people worked from home. And this is all over the world and country. Most people worked at home either full-time or were hybrid. And a lot of departments at the top of the year were told that they were going to go straight to 5 days a week. It wasn't easing it, like she said, 3, then 4, then eventually 5. It was like, nope, if you work totally remote, you're going back into the office 5 days straight. Now, of course, they did give us warning because we got the memo too, but thankfully we weren't impacted. I still have a hybrid schedule. I'm thankful, but I'm aware that that could be taken away from us at any point. But I think that was their tactic. They're hoping that people are wanting to stay in their remote status at work, and they'll just hopefully try to find something else within that time frame between the announcement and them actually having to be in the office. And to me, this might be a controversial take, but I'm not totally mad at it because I would rather somebody who's dead set on working from home, I'd rather them find a job and quit. And if enough people do that to where like that department will be able to avoid layoffs. So, I mean, it sounds bad. I wish that it wouldn't be that way, but I'd rather that happen, people find employment elsewhere, rather than they begrudgingly stay and complain. And, you know, that department ends up being at risk of layoffs anyway, to where you're just going to have to go back and look for a job regardless. Definitely something a lot of these companies are doing, again, major corporations. But again, with that Starbucks, oh, I heard about that like a couple months ago, where if you haven't heard, the Starbucks CEO, like she said, lives in Southern California and takes a private jet up to Seattle, I think every day of the work week. And I'm kind of like, why can't you do that remote? That's just wasting resources and adding to pollution. I mean, of course, there's thousands of planes that fly across the world every day, but that just seems excessive to me. And low-key, that's why the coffees are almost $10, because we paying for this man's flights. I mean, hello, like, why does the CEO get special treatment? Y'all couldn't have gotten a CEO that would be willing to move? Like, what's so special about this man to where the company is paying for him to fly on a private jet to and from his house most likely every day of the week? I'm like, you can't take Zoom calls sometimes? Do you have to be in office? I mean, you're the CEO. I don't know who you answer to, maybe just the shareholders. I don't know who owns Starbucks, if it's just like one man or if it's like an entity. I would have to do research on that, but that kind of angers me a little bit because, yeah, technically he's commuting to the job, but I just feel like that's super excessive because that's taking up company costs to where, like, if this man lived locally or at least did all of his job remotely and maybe a couple times a month he came into the office, then that would maybe make a little bit more sense to me. But that's resources that are being used to get this man to and from his house every day, which could be going to retaining profits and possibly saving jobs. Us Joe Schmo's jobs are being at risk every day just to provide this man with the entitlement to be able to live across different states and still is able to maintain his job. I don't know. I think that is wild. I feel like Starbucks customers, we need to revolt against this. I know Starbucks is kind of still having their own boycott issues right now too, and they're kind of still a little iffy on their profits right now because I think they tanked a little bit, especially last year. I don't know how they're doing as of now, but I don't know, unless he providing results, which I'm not really hearing. Y'all gonna have to cut this man. If I was Starbucks employees, I know I'm kind of ranting about this, but it really makes me mad. Those Starbucks workers, the baristas, need the raise in pay, but they're allowing a man to take a private jet from Southern California to Seattle every day. That's at least gotta be 3 or 4 hours. But anyway, this is what they do to the big money people. They pamper them and give them the ability to do things we would never do, and they get all the money. This man is making millions of dollars, but he's still getting a plane to and from work for free. It is absolutely outrageous to think about. Okay, so we're gonna leave it right there for today's video, but obviously I had a very, in my opinion, I went in on that last one, but it really just frustrates me because the times we're in right now, we do not have resources to be able to fly a single man from California each and every day just to maybe attend 1 or 2 meetings. Like, it's ridiculous to me. But anyway, let me know what you guys think about this below. Like, Do you feel that these layoffs are going to stop or kind of slow down a little bit? Or do you think, like me, that it's just going to get worse over time? And also let me know, have you, unfortunately, have been recently laid off and are currently looking for work? Let us know how it's going and like what you're experiencing, because I always love to read those type of comments because I feel for you guys. I have definitely been in that situation. I used to think about that, not to go too much off on a tangent, but even years ago, like when I lived back in my hometown, I'm from a relatively small town. It was just super hard to get jobs. And that's partly why I moved, because I just didn't see much of a great future there. But the job market over there, it just never left me feeling positive and hopeful about anything. And I feel like a lot of people are feeling that now. And it's just so sad, and my heart goes out to everybody that's on the search and are trying to look. I ain't gonna lie, I don't want to put that bad energy out there into the universe, but you never know, I might have to join y'all in that search at some point. I mean, I don't know, we're gonna see. I definitely want to hear of all your experiences down below. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I want to thank you guys so much for watching. And if you've made it this far, don't forget to give me a like and subscribe, because that will let me know that you're enjoying my content and want to see more from me. It does give me a little pep in my step to make more videos. You know, I like seeing some likes. You know, I'm rebuilding right now. It's going to take time, but I love hearing from everyone and seeing that y'all are still with me. But that's all I have. Thanks once again, and I'll catch you guys next time. Bye. See you later.